The first case of corona.
Kobe Bryant.
Ahmaud Arbery.
Breonna Taylor.
George Floyd.
So many reminders of what George Floyd's name now means to those who never met him.
In San Francisco, they jammed the Golden Gate Bridge.
Hey, taking a few minutes again to have some ongoing conversations. Hopefully you've seen some of the other moments that we've shared. But today, here with one of my best friends in the city, Lumumba Sayers. And I want to introduce you to him and let him share a little bit about his story and his background so you get to know him better. And again, just dig in. So maybe for just a couple of minutes, Lumumba, we met, 11, 12 years ago now?
Yep.
It's been...
We met at All the Above.
That's right.
Clothing release.
That's right. That's right. You were carrying the belt, and I was working for a clothing company, and it all sort of came together.
Yeah.
And worked that out. And it was sort of that instant connection of a shared passion for, just helping others, serving kids, doing what we can. And from there, we've been running in the city all over the place with some amazing stories. For people that don't know you, give us a couple minutes of born in Denver, family.
So I was born in the 5 Points of Denver, over on the east side of town. I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters. One passed as a baby. My father was one of the members who started the Martin Luther King March here in Colorado with the group called Umoja. My father's name is Alfred Sayers. He is a Mayfield. Well, his mother was a Mayfield, and that was one of the biggest families here in Colorado at the time. My mother, her last name was Mosley, which is the second biggest family in town at that time. So I come from 2 of the biggest families here in Colorado.
Which, again, that makes more sense now that I hear that, because everybody in Colorado knows you, or you know everybody.
Yeah.
So you're probably related to them.
So on my mom's side, it was the Crips. And on my dad's side, it was the Bloods. The first Bloods that were ever here was the Bounty Hunter Bloods. And the Rolling 30 Crips, I got cousins from both sides. So I was kind of stuck in the middle to where I don't pick a side to either one. And plus, I was more afraid of my dad than I was of the gang members, and they all looked up to him because they were always coming to our house because they were our cousins. Let me see. When I was in middle school, it was during the summer of violence where, I lost some friends. My best friend from 6th grade died from pneumonia. And then my best friend Sean Banks got shot and killed. One of my friends, Javon, got shot in the back of the head with a shotgun. We was walking home from school once we got in high school, and me and Sean go into the store. Glenn keeps walking. He gets shot in a drive-by, a block, like right in front of his house. So I grew up around a lot of violent situations to where, like, my life was on the line. We used to have to fight with, like, the OD-13s as middle school kids. We was like middle school kids fighting with grown men, and I never understood why. We would just be out there, and they'd come up, and we'd have to fight with them. And I never got up. Like, dang, man, because I lived on the west side for a little bit, and I'm like, man, over there, everybody got along over there. Let me see. Man, I just always had to fight. My dad, we used to watch AWA and all that stuff all the time, and go watch Jerry Blackwell and all those guys at McNichols Arena when that was here. And we used to just wrestle and fight all day with my dad and my brothers. And then that turned into me having to fight my way to school and back, and then I used to have to fight the gang members because I didn't want to be a part of what they were doing, and I wasn't going to be bullied. That turned into me getting into some trouble later on, to where I was having to go to court for fighting, and I just kind of got tired of going to court for it, and ended up going off to college, and I started fighting in the tough man competitions. And there was 12 competitions. I won all 12. I went 56-0 tough man fighter. And then I started boxing. And when my boxing career, I went amateur. I went 24-0 as an amateur, 32-0 as a pro. And I started getting these headaches and stuff. And so I took a year off. And then Patrick Smith, who was my son and daughter's uncle, he ended up bringing me over to the mixed martial arts world, to where, man, I had already been fighting for about 10 years, and then my MMA career kind of blew up from there.
Yeah.
So
Got into Strike Force and UFC and
yeah,
all of that. So yeah, and that hence the nickname Heavy Hands.
yeah.
Absolutely. And so, you know, one of the things that I love telling the story, because we've connected over the years. It's been volunteer projects. We're serving in the prisons, on the streets. We've done school assemblies, Christmas events. We'll have to do another video on just those stories for people to know, like, a lot of what we do now that's big. Like last year, Coors Field, 10,000 kids started really with the back of your moving truck in a Walmart parking lot, right, in Park Hill. And we would pull up and it would just be a Facebook post and mamas and grandmas hitting us up and just, right, it's handing out toys and gifts and whatever we can do to serve. I love also telling people a few years back when I got that call about the girl that had been sex trafficked.
Yeah.
And, you know, lo and behold, it's like at midnight, find out that she's at the airport and needs rescued. So I'm like, who do I know that's, man, Big Mark and Lumumba. And I've told that story a million times all over the place when I preach. And of course, people like love the fact that we have a Big Mark that's 6'5", 330 pounds, and that there's a Lumumba that at that time I think you were still bounty hunting.
Yep.
And so I remember you showed up and you got like your bulletproof gear on, you're ready to go. I'm like, hopefully it's not that serious, but man,
I just got off.
Hey, we found the girl, got her to the hospital, and you know, a couple months later back to her family. So
Yeah.
with everything going on, though, I want to ask just a couple questions that growing up as a young black kid in the city, and like you're saying, you've got Crips, Blood, so you're so familiarized with that culture of street, of gangs. But now looking back with what's going on, obviously we know the incident with George Floyd has triggered a global outcry of racial injustice, and things have got to get better. You know, we share this commonality that we know the root of that really is sin, and we've got to deal with that. But are there any moments you can look back? Was it things that maybe you were taught as a kid, or something your dad told you, or are there things that you come back and it was just sort of accepted as like, well, as a black kid, here's what I need to know?
Well, one thing that my dad taught me as a black kid was that I was going to have to work harder than everybody else. So, and never take no for an answer when it comes to going after a goal that I wanted to accomplish that was positive. So I just knew I had to work harder than everybody else. I've seen some of the obstacles, but I never let that stop me.
Yeah.
And then my relationship with God actually amplified my confidence to be able to go out and accomplish the goals that I was doing. But just as a black kid, I knew I had to work harder, because some people just don't want to see you make it. And they give you a hard time. I still go through it right now to this day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you own a gym, you own a moving company, you employ people. I think that really it's one of those terms that people, especially white people, get very offended right now because they hear this term white privilege. And a lot of people don't want to own that, or they get offended by that. Miles McPherson, pastor in San Diego, I think he illustrated a great way, and he's left-handed. Played in the NFL, black pastor, phenomenal leader, but he's left-handed. So he talked about if you're born now and you're right-handed, you're naturally set up for success better than someone that's left-handed. You know, he talked about being a kid going to elementary school, right, and you sit in your desk, and if you're right-handed, it's lined up perfect. If you're left-handed, you got to, right, twist your body around to be able to write. And there's certain things like the keyboard and just things that it's a natural advantage to be born right-handed. And if the left hand, you got to overcome those challenges. Like, that's such a great analogy. There's things that, I feel like my parents taught me to work hard, to grind, and you've got the same work ethic. But naturally, there's things that are geared for me that are harder for someone like you. And I think, people get offended by hearing white privilege, but it is. It's an easier opportunity to not have to face those challenges.
Well, there's a guy, I made a post. Shannon Sharp was actually talking about the national anthem and stuff, and it was a whole video. So I made this post, and I tagged these guys in it. And one of these guys, I've been friends with this guy for like almost 20 years, and I never really paid attention to his attitude about stuff like that because we were friends, I thought. Well, he started saying there's no such thing as racism, it's only hard workism. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? So he's like, yeah, the only person that's holding black people back is other black people. It's like, no, we go to court, we get the same fines, we get the same jail sentence. And I'm like, dude, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And
that, again, is people that get bothered by that terminology, if they just step back. And again, what I love about being a follower of Christ, right? There's no condemnation for those that are in Christ. So it's not that I need to feel guilty, but I should feel convicted. Yeah. Right, that we were talking, Micah 6:8 is the verse that says that we are to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly, and to act justly is identifying what's just and what is justice. And if you look at, again, mass incarceration, going to court, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Yeah. The discrepancy between sentencing for people of color, especially African American young males, is insane. Again, I think I heard T.D. Jakes or one of the pastors talking about, if it happens in white suburbia, we put them on parole or probation and send them to therapy. If it happens in the inner city, right, we send them to prison. And the numbers speak for themselves on that. So, yeah. When people respond, again, it's funny how, again, just conversations where instead of trying to defeat each other with, being offended, because I think that's where a lot of people land right now is everybody has a place of personal offense. And even, for you, like as this stuff, well, let's even go back a couple weeks ago when you saw the video or the whole George Floyd thing, what was your response in that moment to, one, him being another black male, it being a police officer, and then all of the issues that have exploded now?
Well, the George Floyd, that was crazy to see that. But the situation that really hurt me was the Elijah McClain situation.
Because that's local.
That's my cousin. So Elijah McClain was actually my cousin. So to actually see that this autistic kid who's super respectful, 140 pounds, is walking down the street, he has his earphones in, and he's really just focused, tunnel vision on getting home, and the police approach him, and he's respectful with his responses to them, and to see how they did him like that bothered me. Like, I could not sleep for like 2 weeks, and I actually cried over that situation because that young man was like, dude, you guys are like 200 and something pounds. This kid is 140, and he's saying, oh, you guys are so strong. Oh, please stop. That hurts. I can't breathe. Like, that actually hurt me. And, it just, there's nothing that was done about that situation. But
on the personal side, let me interject a question. Again, being very personal, being related. Racial profiling, was it because it was black?
Yeah, it was because he was black with a mask on, and I feel like the police in that situation, in a lot of situations, they just try to throw around their authority. You know what I mean? Like it's not fair that they have so much authority to be able to do what they want to do. And if you don't listen to them, it's a crime. You know what I mean? So to be able to have that kind of power and to abuse that kind of power, man, that's reckless.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the police need to, with them having that kind of power, they're like, man, who can tell us what to do? Yeah. We're not going to get in trouble for it. It's like a open license to do whatever it is that you want to do. So if you don't obey this police officer and do what they tell you to do, then you're going to be in trouble. Like, you don't have the right to walk away from a police officer when they tell you to stop. You don't have the right to tell the police, man, leave me alone. I don't want to deal with you. Or they're going to call more police officers and it's going to get worse.
Yeah. So, again, I think you and I both hold an interesting position in that because we were really close with Chief White when he was the Denver police chief.
Yeah.
And now our current police chief, Paul Pazin, again, an incredible friend. He's at all of our events. He comes to the Father's Day barbecues. He connects with guys coming out of prison. He's highly involved and invested. So we know that there's officers that have a great heart.
I got two brothers that are cops.
And they do it the right way.
I got a brother that's a sergeant in Black Hawk, and I have a brother who's a lieutenant. Actually, he might be a sergeant now for the CU Police Department.
So within that context, you know, you hear right now one of the cries is to defund the police. And even to the radical side of just community-based operations and support systems. So from the crazy side to defund and get rid of, to those that misuse power and authority, what do you see as solutions? How do we heal and fix this?
I think that so say there's a group of guys and they go out and they get pulled over and one of them has a gun in the car. If they don't tell whose gun that is, all of them go to jail. And then they sort it out later of what happened. So I think that if the police do something like that, they should, and they don't tell like everybody else, like when the guys are in the situation, I think they should go to jail as well. You know what I mean? If you go out here and you use excessive force and you kill somebody, and these other cops don't step up and speak about it or say, hey, man, I didn't have anything to do, I think they should have to follow the same rules that everybody else follows. I think that if you don't say, hey, look, this is what happened, then you should go to jail too. You should be responsible for, you are just as guilty as killing that person as these other cops, because that's how it is. If you get pulled over with somebody and there's something that happened, everybody's going to jail. So if this kid or this person dies while they're being attacked or whatever, or I think all y'all should go to jail if you don't say, hey, look, nah, this is what happened.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think the rules for the public should apply for the police as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's not only personal accountability, but it's for the person involved, but accountability for the officers that are there.
Yeah, because police have immunity. Like which
that's changing. And that's being bills that are being passed right now. So again, it's interesting to see where things are headed, from how extreme it could be. But we all agree that what happened with George Floyd was during a pandemic season where everybody's bent up energy and at home, and finally, things have exploded. But the heart of this, we know, is just a broken world that we live in. Yeah. And as much as people are harping on black and white, and now there's a lot of people that are, I remember celebrating my first Juneteenth celebration when I was in California, 16, 17 years ago. And 17 years ago, I'd never heard of Juneteenth. And so I started going to celebrations, like, this is amazing. How do we not know about this? And why is this not celebrated more than coming out here, always like pocketed? Now, things are moving to where people are now aware of Black Wall Street and places in history of why have we not dealt with this before. And so all of that stuff on the education side, community building is important. But the heart of it, for just the last couple of minutes, what are things that you see in regards to, again, separation, racial tension? How do we bring hope and how do we get healing back into our city?
We have to start from ground zero. Like, we have to start building self-love for the people in the community, for them to be able to, we have to teach them how to love themselves in order to love everybody else. Because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to love anybody else. So one of the things that I do with the students and the people at Heavy Hands, Heavy Heart Center is I have them introduce themselves, give me their first and last name, and then I have them tell me 5 things that they love about themselves. And I go over that every day, and then I teach them what integrity is, which is doing the right thing when no one's looking. And I teach them now, which is no opportunity wasted.
Yeah,
So those 2 things, it's doing the right thing when no one's looking, because there's no opportunity to be wasted to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I just always teach them different things, and that's what we have to do as a community. We have to be able to work together as a team, because together everyone accomplishes more.
That's it.
And if we don't sit down and come together and work as one and fall on our knees and give our lives over to God,
That's it.
and just lay our life down for that, then we're going to keep going through the same thing over and over, because it's a lot of greed. So we got to get away from that and get back to being a village.
Yeah.
Like the village aspect of life has gone away. Everybody's like, don't say nothing to my kid. Oh, you better not say nothing to this. And then the police are like, hey, you can't discipline your kids and you can't do that. Or we're going to come in your house, we're going to take your kids. Well, we have to come together and really work as a team in order to change the things that's going on in the community and work. Now, the kids now, we have to instill self-love in them now. So as it moves on, the people who've already been like ruined because of the things that they've went through, if we start building up the youth now to love themselves, they're not going to want to kill each other. They're not going to want to go out here and rob anybody. They're not going to want to go out here and do crazy things, because they're going to be like, no, I don't want to sit in a box. I don't want to be dead out here. I don't want to get shot. I want to be able to love everybody else because I love myself. When you have love, love conquers all things. You know what I mean? And that's what God had for us. When Jesus came down here, which is God in the flesh, he conquered all things through love, because he died for our sins. You know what I mean? So that we all can live, not just some of us, but all of us. So we just gotta, man, that's how you break all of this situation. We teach self-love, which equates to love for others. You know what I mean? And we gotta stop being selfish. A lot of people are selfish, and a lot of people just want to get over on other people. You know, if you give somebody a deal, perfect example, there was this guy, I was eating some food. I bought food for everybody, and then I was eating like some potato wedges because I don't eat meat. He says, hey man, let me get a fry. So I'm like, all right, cool. I slide him over one of my potato wedges. Somebody says something to me, I turn my head. He sticks his fork in my plate and takes the biggest 2 potato wedges on my plate and leaves this little thing on there. And I'm like, dude, I just, you know what I mean? Like, I just gave you some of my, and you're going to take it all? So people have to stop being greedy. Like, if somebody gives you something, you know, hey, all right, I'm going to take that, you know, because you're sharing with me. I'm not going to try to get over on you and take what you're offering me. So, I don't know.
We'll build a curriculum on that. We'll call it the potato wedge class or something. Selflessness and greed. But man, I love everything you're saying, and it really is. And I love how you're alluding to, like, it's the village. And it's not. And again, this is my heart. And again, I'm not the smartest guy, but it's far bigger than black and white, and it's far bigger. Is it just a racial issue, right? It is a community. It is based on what is truth. How do we love people? Because you alluded to it, like it's how families are separated from families, and that's not a color thing. That's perception. That's personal offenses. It's within neighborhoods. It's young people treating older people. It's things that you see on. I mean, there's so many divisions all over the place. And so if we're going to heal black and white relationships, we've got to heal families, right? We got to restore communities. And so everything that we get to do together, man, it's a blessing. For anybody watching, you can definitely check out Heavy Hands, Heavy Hearts, and their center on the east side. But everything that we collaborate and do together, from rescuing girls at midnight that have been trafficked, to delivering toys out of the back of a moving truck in the projects, to and just loving people, making a difference. So, man, Lumumba, I love you. And I'm thankful that we get to do this together. Hopefully people watch this, get inspired, but we're going to shut it down for now, and we'll keep the conversation going.